exchanges of Asian stock markets. WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
Welcome back. You're watching Gravitas with me, Raisha Saigal. We're starting this newscast with breaking news that's coming in at this point of time. Fresh Israeli attack targets Iran vital installations under attack in Tehran. Multiple explosions heard across Tehran. Iran's state TV says it is being attacked by Israel. Attacks comes after IDF warned of new attacks. IDF says it is striking military targets are currently being struck in Tehran.
فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم فضای غبارآلوده استادیوم
Well, let's now show you the moment an Iranian TV station came under attack, the moment of the attack of Iran's state broadcaster, even as the news anchor was reading. Watch these images and the moment of the strikes. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani is now joining us on the broadcast. Susan, you know the IRIB headquarters in Tehran and the locality. Well, talk to us more about these Israeli strikes on IRIB, which just took place moments ago.
Yes, as you mentioned, I'm very familiar with that complex and its different buildings. I will tell you and our viewers, first of all, that it's like a small village. It's like a really small town. And when you go in there, it's not just like a single building, an office building, as you would imagine. It has different parts and different studios and different offices. It's home to the Islamic Republic of Iran's broadcasting, but also it is a home to many satellite transmitters, satellite transmissions for broadcast, not only nationally, locally, but some international networks for the region as well. Not all of Iran's state international media is housed at IRIB at the moment. but nonetheless a very significant development. It is heavily guarded from all sides. It occupies a very large part of District 3, which makes sense why the Israeli government called for civilian evacuation of that area. But it's also important to note that while it does cover a very wide area and it's very heavily guarded, it is in the middle of a residential neighborhood, essentially, with shops and stores and homes, not only apartment buildings, but villas as well. And this is a building that has stood the test of time even prior to the Islamic Revolution in 1979. It was home to where Iran was broadcasting television. So it's a very significant development. We just saw that video of the news anchor being live on television and seeing that it's hit. Again, it's important to wait and assess what kind of damage has been done to this complex, considering the fact that it's very big. It has different studios, and also, what other damage possibly has been done not only to the infrastructure, but to civilian lives and those who are inside IRIB as well.
Right, Susan, thanks for getting us the latest on that. We're also now being joined by Mahmoud Hassani, journalist from Tehran. Welcome to WION, Mr. Hassani. You're joining us live from Tehran. Talk to us about the situation and the on-ground reality at this point of time, because just moments ago, Israel struck the IRIB TV station there in Tehran. What's the latest?
Thank you. Israel claims that it only targets military facilities, but I have visited the IRIB center several times in Tehran, and I can assure you there are absolutely no military targets inside the IRIB center. And the building that was targeted was responsible for the news section of the whole IRIB broadcasting. After the strike, the IRIB cut off its live programs, and I've heard from some of the people inside the building that they had already evacuated most of the people who were working there, and only the anchor and several people were present at the time of the strike. They knew about it beforehand, but still there was people inside the building, and their situation remains unknown. And Israel is doing exactly the same thing as it did in Gaza. It targets journalists, it targets people who are reporting on its crimes. Israel in Gaza targeted both center, targeted the TV stations, targeted the radio stations, and it continues to target journalists. And it's doing the same thing in Iran now. It has now started with targeting the IRIB center, and it will continue to target all the newspapers and all the reporters that are present in Iran.
Right, Mr. Hosseini. Talk to us about what kind of retaliation can we expect from Iran right now, because we are seeing that Israel has expanded its target list in Iran from earlier targeting nuclear sites to military leaders and now the IRIB. What kind of retaliation can we expect from Iran? Because the Iranian leaders have clearly said that Israel will have to pay a heavy price, and it will not stop until the Israeli attacks stop.
I think Iran is going to use more advanced missiles and is going to attack more targets in Israel. But I think the problem with the risk retaliation is that Iran does not have much missiles left. And in the first day of the Israeli attack on Iran, it used 200 missiles in its attack. But last night, in its latest attack, it used only 30 missiles. It is today it said that it is getting ready for a long war. So I think it is rationing the missiles that it has left. I think at the first day, several silos of the Iranian missile was targeted, and so it does not have. It's not firing a lot of missiles all at the same time. It is firing a few missiles every day, and Iran may target Israeli channels in retaliation for this. But Israel has its channel 13 has already been evacuated to a bunker, and they are broadcasting their TV programs from their bunker.
Right, Mr. Hosseini, you're joining us live from Tehran. What is the situation like there? What are you hearing from the Iranian authorities? Stay with us. The US President Donald Trump is speaking on the current situation between Iran and Israel. Let's just take a listen.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
And what would you say, in your opinion, what would it take for the U.S. to get involved in this conflict militarily?
I don't want to talk about that.
As you mentioned Putin, do you think that he should have a seat at the G7 today, that it should be the G8?
I'm not saying he should at this point, because too much water's gone over the dam, maybe. But it was a big mistake. Obama didn't want him, and the head of your country, the proud head of your country, didn't want him. This was a big mistake. You wouldn't have that war. You know, you have your enemy at the table. Even I don't even consider him. He wasn't really an enemy at that time. There was no concept. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But likewise, if he were a member of what was called the G8 at that time, it was always the G8, you wouldn't have a war right now.
Why not? What intelligence support are you providing Israel?
We've always supported Israel. We have for a long period of time, strongly. And Israel's doing very well right now.
Why not have China at the G8? Why not have China here, the biggest economy in the world after the United States?
Well, it's not a bad idea. I don't mind that. If somebody wants to suggest China coming in, I think we suggest. But you want to have people that you can talk to. You know, they don't talk to. Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the G8. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted. And, I mean, he was thrown out by Trudeau, who convinced one or two people, along with Obama. He was thrown out, and he's not a happy person about it, I can tell you that. He basically doesn't even speak to the people that throw him out, and I agree with him.
Go ahead. On immigration, why are you ordering ICE to target Democratic inner cities? What's behind that?
I don't know what you're saying.
You did a post last night where you said you want ICE to really target Democratic.
Yeah, I want them to focus on the cities, because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York, I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and you know, New York and LA, look at LA. LA, those people weren't from LA, they weren't from California, most of those people, many of those people. And yeah, that's a focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
That was the U.S. president. When asked about the Israel-Iran war, he said he does not want to comment, and he spoke about how U.S. has been supporting Israel. Well, we have Mr. Hosseini back here with us. Mr. Hosseini, talk to us about why do you think Israel has targeted IRIB?
The same reason it targeted journalists in Gaza as well, and in Lebanon. In Lebanon, if you remember, during the war, it targeted the guest house near the border, and over a dozen journalists were killed there. In Gaza, over 230 journalists have been killed. And in Iran, it has just, I think it's just a beginning. It continues to target journalists because they want to silence of every voice that is opposing it. It wants to silence the media. It wants to hide what it's doing in Iran. It wants to hide that what it is actually targeting civilians. And there are a lot of the places it has targeted, there are no military targets inside. There are a lot of people near my own home was targeted several times. There were just residential buildings. Yesterday's target was just a residential building 2 blocks from my own apartment. And there are no military targets inside. A children's hospital in Tehran was targeted yesterday. Children's hospital. And today, after it has ordered evacuation order, it has issued evacuation orders for the neighborhood 3 of Tehran that houses several hospitals. Now, if it targets hospitals, it say now I have already evacuation orders. There are military sites, but they're only hospitals.
Right. Like you also mentioned, Israel announced evacuation alert for Tehran 3 district. Apart from IRIB, do you think any other infrastructure has been hit by Israel?
There are several IRGC headquarters, I think, in that area, is located in that area. One hospital, which is associated with the IRGC, but it's ordinary civilians usually go there. And there are also, that neighborhood is a very densely populated neighborhood. It's a very crowded neighborhood. If it strikes that area, and there is usually a heavy traffic in that area, if it targets that area, it will be devastating. There will be huge human casualties.
Right. Also talk to us about how are Iranian civilians responding to these strikes? What is the on-ground situation like in Tehran at this point of time?
Iranian people unilaterally are condemning Israel's attacks. It has created a very strong sense of unity since the war began. This might not have been the case before the war, but now there's a strong sense of unity among the people. People are condemning Israel's attacks. People are helping each other. People who have been stranded, for example, the people who are stranded in other cities, they're housing them. And there's a very, very strong sense of patriotism in Iran.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Hosseini, for getting us the latest from Tehran at this point of time.
Thank you.
In signs of further escalation, according to Iranian state media, Iran's Revolutionary Guards have called on Tel Aviv residents to evacuate as soon as possible. Israel has struck IRIB headquarters in Tehran. Evacuation orders in Tel Aviv came just after Israel said Iran's state TV and radio about to disappear. Both the countries are now targeting critical infrastructure in densely populated areas. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps have called on the residents of Tel Aviv to evacuate as soon as possible. And this as Tel Aviv now braces for possible Iranian attack. War between Israel and Iran escalating to next level clearly as both the countries continue to attack each other on day 4 of the conflict between Iran and Israel. And that's the news coming in. IRGC has now issued evacuation orders in Tel Aviv. That's after Israel attacked IRIB in Tehran. Well, Israel's surgical strikes on Iran's nuclear and missile infrastructure were designed to cripple Tehran's war machine. While Iran bleeds from these wounds, Benjamin Netanyahu appears trapped without a clear end game beyond pleading for America to unleash even greater firepower. The brutal reality, Israeli air defenses are buckling under Iran's relentless missile barrage. And now, Israel is urging France and UK to help provide more interceptors. The next report telling you more.
The night sky above Israel erupts in deadly fireworks. Tiny metallic specks pierce through cloud cover, each carrying devastating payloads of destruction. From the ground below, interceptor missiles streak upward, desperately hunting the incoming threats, in a deadly game of aerial chess. Then catastrophe strikes with terrifying speed. One missile plunges earthward like a falling star of death. Another finds its mark with surgical precision. A direct hit that shatters the illusion of Israeli invincibility. Despite the Iron Dome's reputation, multiple Iranian projectiles have punched through Israel's vaunted defenses, slamming into Tel Aviv, Haifa and Bat Yam with devastating force. These images tell the tale of the brute power of Iranian missiles. Death and devastation on the ground. Residential towers collapse into rubble. Cars explode into roaring fireballs that illuminate the terror-stricken streets. Windows shatter across busy thoroughfares as the shockwaves ripple through urban landscapes. sirens wail their haunting warnings as terrified families dive into underground shelters, while rescue teams charge through choking smoke and twisted debris to save the wounded. The Iron Dome isn't Israel's only guardian angel. The nation's survival depends on multiple layers of sophisticated air defense, the battle-tested Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 systems, and the David Sling, which stands alongside the Iron Dome. But even Israeli officials admit the terrifying truth. The Iron Dome isn't invincible. They've repeatedly warned of the tough days ahead. For the first time, Israel's military is publicly acknowledging that greater pain awaits.
From the moment we launched the campaign, we acted with surprise and deception. In the opening strike, we eliminated the top military command. We will continue to intensify our operations, and in doing so, strengthen our security for years to come. Defending our home front is a critical component of this campaign. As I told you from the beginning, there will be difficult moments. We are in the midst of a challenge unlike those we have faced in the past. We knew there would be a price, and it underscores why we acted now, before it became too late.
After days of pulverizing Iranian air defenses and missile installations, Israeli forces claim aerial supremacy from western Iran to Tehran's doorstep. IDF claims to have obliterated 120 surface-to-surface missile launchers, a third of Iran's arsenal that had been raining death on Israeli soil during brutal overnight campaigns. But the danger is far from over. Iran is believed to possess more than 3,000 ballistic missiles, and its salvos continue to rain death and destruction on Israeli cities. The question now is, how long can Tehran sustain these attacks? Israel's defenses are clearly under unprecedented strain, and the nation is now turning to Europe for reinforcements. With Iran showing it can penetrate deep and Israel vowing to burn through Iran's defenses, the battle is far from over. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Well, Israel is no stranger to conflict per se, but it is now coming face to face with a new kind of reality, one dotted with death, devastation, the plight of ordinary citizens, and the pain of war. This as Iranian missiles continue to target homes, schools, and civilian establishments right in the heart of Israel. Panic and anxiety gripped Israelis as they woke up to loud sounds of explosions on Sunday morning, and of course further for the fourth consecutive day in a row. Look at these visuals on your screens right now. Buildings and apartment complexes massively hit. Shelters shook, cars damaged, and streets left in ruins. All this after they were hit by a wave of Iranian missiles in the Israeli coastal city of Haifa. Residents of some of these buildings were seen raising alarm as their homes were reduced to rubble in front of their eyes.
All the electricity went out. There was a high voltage cable that fell. An electrical transformer room was on fire. It was impossible to access. There were many explosions and a fire that completely destroyed several cars.
In moments, private properties were decimated, leaving many homeless and full of fear.
I couldn't go home. Everything was destroyed. The staircase was destroyed. It wasn't safe.
And not just Haifa, cities like Tel Aviv, Benin Barak, Petah Tikva, among others, also bore the brunt of these strikes. A police spokesperson says at least 3 were killed and over 30 injured in Israel's Petah Tikva, whereas in Tel Aviv and Haifa, at least 8 have been killed, with women and children among the victims. As the war continues to claim the lives of the innocent, in Jerusalem, schools, restaurants, places of worship and businesses, including banks, remain closed, as residents anticipate more barrages of attacks to come.
I
was a soldier in the army, so I have control, composure. I helped people, I counted them, and all that somehow helped me get out of this panic and function and manage the event. There were 12 to 13 children there in the shelter, screaming, and about 11 adults.
כל השאר עוד איזה 11 מבוגרים בעצם.
The overall mood appears to be tense and uneasy, even for a population which remains otherwise combat ready. And security seems to be fragile, with a sizable chunk of civilians living near major Iranian targets. In Tel Aviv and other cities, and for the first time, people sense limits to Israel's defense capabilities, especially its air defense system, the Iron Dome. In a bid to counter the Iranian onslaught, replete with ballistic missiles and other advanced weaponry, they fear that the ability to keep civilians safe, more so as Israelis remain increasingly cautious of an outbreak of a more dangerous war. In days to come, that's in the future.
It's not easy to be in a war. It's never easy to be in a war. I have 2 kids, young kids, one 8 and the other one is 5. But we are all very, very brave, and they understand the situation. And yes, it's not the easiest thing to pass a war and my house windows destroyed by the missiles, and we need to move now.
In commenting on the latest attacks, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently said that the missiles does not distinguish between Jewish and Arabs and destroys them all.
4 of our civilians were killed yesterday in Tamara. I heard cheering. I reject that with all my soul. The missile does not distinguish. It does not distinguish. It hits both Jews and Arabs. They are coming to destroy all of us. We are brothers, and so we stand in this battle together.
Meanwhile, in Iran, the death toll from Israel's airstrike campaign has reached at least 224 civilians, account for almost 90% of the casualties. From the looks of it, there's no end to tensions in the region rising, and the conflict seems to be only getting started in ways more than one. It is a huge litmus test for both the country's defenses and also their governments, if they are able to protect their civilians and prevent more death and destruction from taking place. Can the US President Donald Trump stop the Israel-Iran war? Because the war between Israel and Iran is now threatening American interests, and it has knocked on America's doors, almost literally. The US Embassy in Tel Aviv has been temporarily shut down after an Iranian missile struck the embassy, causing what the US ambassador called minor damage to the embassy. And the US Embassy in Iraq has issued warnings of possible attacks on American citizens, facilities and businesses. US nationals in Baghdad have been urged to avoid crowded places and areas frequented by foreigners. In Tehran, the Swiss Embassy, which has historically functioned as a quiet back channel between Washington and Iran, is now shut. Even if Trump says countries like Iran and Israel, in his words, have to fight it out first before they reach a deal, it appears Trump can no longer afford to just watch from the sidelines, because the stakes have shifted and American interests are now directly under threat. Ever since the war broke out last Friday, Trump's own words on the war have wavered from one extreme to the other.
Well, I hope there's going to be a deal. I think it's time for a deal, and we'll see what happens. But sometimes they have to fight it out, but we're going to see what happens. I think there's a good chance there'll be a deal.
Just a day earlier, on a post on social media, Trump denied any U.S. role in Israeli strikes inside Iran, while warning that any attack on America by Iran in any way, shape or form would trigger an unprecedented military response. But this statement was in clear contrast to the statement he gave to Reuters during a telephonic interview on Saturday, in which he said he and his team had known they were in know of the attacks which were coming. And earlier on Friday, in yet another post on social media, Trump warned that more violent attacks were on the way. He described the situation as spiraling, urged Iran to make a deal before there's nothing left, and acknowledged the death and destruction already underway. So through all these contradictory comments, if Trump thought he could keep one foot in and one foot out, the idea of staying neutral, of letting the regional players sort it out themselves, has perhaps collapsed. American embassies are under threat. Americans are being told to take cover. And the possibility of wider escalation now carries the risk of dragging the United States directly into a larger conflict, whether it wants to or not. In 2020, when Trump and the White House faced a similar moment after an Iranian general was killed by an American drone attack, it used a Swiss diplomatic channel to diffuse tensions. But this time, that back door is also shut. This time, Trump has no such option to exercise, whether he likes it or not. The battlefield is directly hitting America's interests, and now it is no longer about asking if Trump can stop the war. It appears to be about how he will do so. Despite US President Donald Trump stating that America remains uninvolved in the ongoing tensions, recent developments beg this very important question. Is the United States fighting on Israel's behalf in the escalating Iran-Israel war? Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently spoke to Fox News and said that Trump was not only informed about Israel's military operation codenamed Rising Lion, rather, American pilots, Netanyahu said, have directly participated in defending Israeli airspace.
And obviously we informed our American friends and President Trump, our great friend, ahead of time. We did. He knew about it, of course. American pilots are shooting down drones that are headed towards Israel, as do our pilots.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi accused the Washington of playing a direct role in enabling Israeli attacks and dismissed American denials.
We have received messages from the United States through various channels over the past 2 days, claiming that the US was not involved in this attack and will not be. As I have said, we do not believe this claim. We have evidence that suggests otherwise.
And there are military movements by US that perhaps back Iran's claim. The US aircraft carrier USS Nimitz has reportedly abruptly changed course in the South China Sea. It was earlier scheduled to dock in Vietnam. It is now reportedly sailing westwards, possibly towards West Asia. The shift is reportedly due to an emergent operational requirement. The moves come amid growing reports that the US could be dragged further into the conflict between Iran and Israel. Adding more to this, speculation is the deployment of American refueling aircraft flying in large rare formations across the Atlantic, as well as the repositioning of Navy destroyers towards the Eastern Mediterranean. And all of this begs a simple but critical question. While Trump insists America is not involved in the attacks against Iran, it appears American forces are already deeply involved in Israel's war against Iran. And the evidence appears to be only mounting. And more information is now coming in on the Israeli attacks on Tehran. The images show the IRIB building on fire. Well, these are the latest images showing the destruction. We are bringing you minute-by-minute updates from Iran. As we told you just a short while ago, Israel attacked Iran's IRIB building, which is the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building in Iran. This was, of course, and these are the visuals of the devastation, of the destruction of the missile attack by Israel on Iran's state TV, IRIB, Iran's state TV, which was hit in Israeli attack on Tehran just a short while ago. And that's the magnitude of devastation that the Israeli attack has done on Iran's IRIB. This is the fourth day of the Iran-Israel conflict, and they continue to attack each other. And this is the moment when an anchor was reading the news and she had to get up and seek shelter as Israel attacked Iran's IRIB. An anchor was perhaps forced to leave the studio mid-broadcast. The visuals on your screen, it is the magnitude of the Israeli attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building, and the building right there on clearly in flames with smoke jutting out of the building after Israel attacked Iran's broadcasting building IRIB. Well, in a region simmering with tension, the question isn't if, but when the next explosion will occur. The ongoing Israeli strikes on Iran have not only escalated the conflict, but also brought the stark realities of the two nations' military capabilities into sharp focus. The situation right now is a brutal test of endurance. Who can absorb the most pain and continue to fight?
The Israeli skies are lit. Waves of missile and drone barrages have been lighting up the skies across Israel. There is death and destruction. Israeli air defenses have claimed to have shot down 80 to 90% of the incoming missiles. However, missiles like these, which sneaked through the multi-layered shield, caused much pain. The IDF says that the Israeli Air Force's success in destroying dozens of missile launchers and many missiles has reduced the pace of Iranian missiles piercing into Israel. The numbers paint a complex picture. Iran, with its vast territory and larger population, fields a substantial military, including a significant missile force. They possess a large number of ballistic missiles, including medium-range missiles capable of reaching Israel. However, much of their equipment is outdated, a mix of Soviet-era systems, pre-1979 American hardware, and more recent, though limited, Russian additions. Their air force, while numerically large, consists of aging aircraft, putting them at a disadvantage against Israel's modern fleet. Israel, in contrast, possesses a smaller but far more advanced military. Their air force is equipped with cutting-edge F-15, F-16 and F-35 stealth fighters, giving them air superiority in the region. Israel's defense industry is robust, capable of designing and producing advanced weaponry, and its forces are battle-hardened from decades of regional conflicts. The Israeli strikes have further weakened Iran. These precision attacks have degraded Iran's air defenses and targeted key nuclear and missile facilities.
Now we can say that we have achieved full air supremacy in the Tehran airspace. Iranian cells that are firing missiles at the state of Israel and toward our planes are being attacked by us in real time. The closing the circle capabilities that we have seen so far in Gaza, Lebanon, Judea and Samaria are happening now in Iran as well.
The strikes also eliminated several high-ranking Iranian military officials and nuclear scientists, disrupting their command structure and potentially delaying their nuclear program. While Iran possesses a large number of missiles, including some capable of hypersonic speeds, the effectiveness of Israel's strikes in neutralizing key launch sites and command centers cannot be understated. Iran warns that there is more to come.
Advance warning to Israelis for your future days. Leave the occupied territories, for they will certainly become uninhabitable for you in the future.
The long-term implications are less clear. Iran's ability to endure and absorb pain is significant. Their large missile arsenal poses a persistent threat, and their proxy forces in the region could be activated to harass Israel. However, continued Israeli strikes targeting key infrastructure and military assets are likely to weaken Iran's military capabilities over time. The conflict has become a war of attrition, a test of wills and resilience. The question remains, who can withstand the accumulating blows and emerge victorious from this brutal exchange?
And well, more breaking news coming in. Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. Well, things are really seeming to be spiraling out. This is the fourth day of Israel and Iran attacking each other. For the past 3 nights, Israeli skies have been lit with attacks, with some missiles piercing the Iron Dome. We also have learned that the Iran state TV resumed live coverage after Israel's attack on the Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Building, the IRIB building, which took place just a short while ago. And the latest coming in is that the Iranian state media says that Iran is preparing for the largest and the most intense missile attack in history on Israeli soil. This, of course, comes after Israel struck Iran's IRIB, which is their Iranian state broadcasting building, a short while ago. And that's Iran's warning towards Israel that Tel Aviv should brace for one of its most intense missile attack in history on the Israeli soil after Israel struck Iran's IRIB building just a short while ago. Well, as per current Indian government figures, there are over 10,000 Indian nationals in Iran. Responding to India's request, the Iranian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has granted permission to the Indian embassy in Tehran to evacuate its nationals. Indian students in Iran will now be escorted to Armenia's Norduz border through buses. According to the JNK Students Association, the Indian Embassy will begin relocating Indian students, including many from Kashmir, from Iranian city of Urmia to Armenia to ensure their safety. Tehran has now asked India to give the names, passport numbers and vehicle specifications of the people crossing the border to its General Protocol Department. An earlier statement from India's Ministry of External Affairs had said that the Indian embassy in Tehran is continuously monitoring the situation in Iran and students were being relocated to safer places within Iran. Well, a chilling new SIPRI report warns nuclear weapon stockpiles are rising for the first time in decades. Over 2,000 warheads are kept on head trigger alert, and AI is creeping into launch systems. The risk of nuclear war is dangerously close. Our next report focuses on how the advent of AI is making the threat even more potent. Take a look.
From Ukraine to West Asia, Taiwan to the Red Sea. Conflicts are raging across continents. But behind the smoke of conventional war, a deadlier shadow looms. A new SIPRI report warns that the world is slipping into a full-blown nuclear arms race. The post-Cold War illusion of nuclear stability is shattering. A more dangerous shift is unfolding silently. A race to rearm with the deadliest weapons known to man. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute's latest report is clear. The nuclear threat is growing fast. Global warheads now number 12,241, out of which over 9,600 remain in active military stockpiles, with nearly 2,100 poised for launch on permanent alert by Russia and the US, which holds the majority of nukes. The report points out how China has been steadily increasing its stockpile. According to the latest analysis, India has joined the elite club of MIRV-capable nations, developing canisterized next-generation missiles capable of launching multiple independently targeted warheads, a giant leap in offensive capability. Adding fuel to the fire, SIPRI warns of AI slipping into nuclear command systems. Automatic launch decisions could transform accidents into an apocalypse. Satellite warnings, submerged submarines, misfires, history is littered with close calls, and now advanced tech raises the stakes to existential levels. Imagine a world where a machine misreads a radar blip or a quantum sensor triggers a false alarm. In this new high-tech theater, a single glitch could unleash nuclear hellfire. Experts warn that as decision-making speeds up and human oversight erodes, the risk of miscommunication and catastrophic error grows exponentially.
The next step would be moving towards full automation. And that is a step that must never be taken. If our prospects of being free of the danger of nuclear war were to be left in the hands of an artificial intelligence, I think that then we would be close to the doomsday scenarios.
SIPRI warns we are entering a new age, not of deterrence, but of danger, where miscalculation, tech glitches, or cyber sabotage could trigger the unthinkable. Nuclear-armed states are not just preserving weapons, they are building them for war, not peace. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
In a historic shift at the heart of Britain's intelligence services, MI6, the United Kingdom's Secret Intelligence Service has appointed its first female chief in its 116-year history. We're talking about Blaise Methreweli will become the first female chief of MI6. She is set to take charge as the country's external intelligence chief from Richard Moore later this year. Often portrayed in fiction as the agency behind the exploits of James Bond, MI6 now sees a very real change in leadership, one that breaks with more than a century of tradition. Since its founding in 1909, MI6 has had a long line of male chiefs known internally by the codename C. It's a tradition dating back to the agency's first director, Mansfield Cumming. Well, Blaise, she's currently the Director General Q, responsible for technological and innovation at the Secret Intelligence Service, a role made famous by the gadget's chief in James Bond movies. Once promoted, Metrovelis will be called C, that denotes chief. Intelligence agency MI5 has had 2 female chiefs in the past, Stella Remington and Eliza Manningham-Buller. Let's now tell you more about Metrovelis. Blaise Metrovelis studied anthropology at Pembroke College, Cambridge. She joined the Secret Intelligence Service in 1999 as a case officer. She spent most of her career in operational roles across West Asia and Europe. She also held director-level positions in MI5. Metrovelis later became Director General for Technology and Innovation at MI6. In 2024, she was appointed a Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George on the King's birthday. Announcing her appointment, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the historic appointment of Metrovelis comes at a time when the work of UK intelligence services has never been more important. From fiction to fact, this moment signals a changing phase for UK intelligence. And while we may never know all the details of a mission, one thing is clear: the future of MI6 is no longer just a man's world. Well, we now slip into a very short break, but thanks very much for staying with us. You are watching WION The World. Stay tuned.
India's Global Voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage?